Welcome back to the Tailosive Tech Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, kicking off the year with the first Apple event, and man, was it a packed one. I think to start off today's episode, we need to just go around. What did we order? What has been purchased? Let's get that out of the way.
Randy,
I keep getting asked about it.
How many iPhones did you just buy?
I bought all the green ones. Every green one possible.
So you bought 4.
13, 13 mini, 13 Pro, Pro Max, all in green.
All in green. Oh my goodness. The perfect iPhone doesn't exist.
Tim Cook walks on stage.
Oh my god. You scrub back and watch my reaction to the 13 Pro. It was a very 11 Pro-esque moment. I was just instantly like, oh, Randy!
I screamed profanities on my Discord when I was like, they freaking did it! I was thinking, we've never seen a new Pro introduced, so I was sitting there, I was like, okay, oh cool, that's a cool green. I'm thinking like, all right, don't fall into it, Randy. Don't trade a Pro for a normal one. Don't do the mini. You're better than this. And then, whoa, here comes the midnight green again, or alpine green now. And I'm just like, they freaking did it! Holy crap! And I lost my mind.
He's back. Yeah.
Yep.
Very 11 Pro moment.
Needless to say,
I think it's a little different shade, but
it looks the same. But regardless, I'm gonna use my Apple Care. I'm gonna fix this baby up. I'm gonna sell it, and I'm bumping up to the Pro Max as I should have done from the get go.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You're switching to the bigger size.
I told you I had to regret the moment I
enough.
returned it. I was like, I miss the Pro Max. Yeah. So.
Well, this was the perfect opportunity. Now you'll have an iPhone that is strictly a 2022 model, you know.
Yes.
None of that 2021 crap.
Nope.
So
I'm getting new year, new me vibes. Before
it's gonna match the watch so well.
I know, Drew. I know. That's okay. So before we move on, I just want to say, this is probably my favorite keynote in a really, really long time, because it's the perfect complementary piece to everything else in our ecosystem already. With the exception of Apple TV Plus, I was so indifferent about that. Not only am I getting the phone, but we'll cover later, I'm also going to get the nano-textured display with the...
Wow, nano-textured too.
With the Pro stand swivel thing.
The height adjustable. Wow, you're maxing out the studio display. Good for you.
Do you know why?
Because
it's under budget.
It's more affordable?
It's under budget what we thought.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I said I would not pay any more than $2,500, and before even applying the discounts, the military discount, it's already under $2,500. So
That's right.
that was my budget. I said no more than this. I'm going to get... I don't care that it's not ProMotion. None of the screens I've ever had is ProMotion. I care...
What about mini LED?
Do I do I... The reason the monitor is meant to serve its purpose as a monitor of giving you that screen real estate. It's nothing. It's nothing that we haven't. It's not the Pro. It's not the XDR display, but it's nothing that we haven't already used daily at some point or another to include. Like an iMac. And this is a better version of the iMac, but it's actually truly a better version of the cinema display that I wanted. It's not 1440.
It is, yeah. It's like a direct successor to the Thunderbolt monitor. I'm so glad to see that back.
Yep.
It's so refreshing.
Yep. So
to finally have another sub $2,000 external monitor by Apple that center stage. I was not even expecting that in my wildest dreams. I was not expecting center stage, and on top of that, a good speaker setup alongside the additional USB-C ports. I think 3 extra Type-C ports. There's a lot going on with that Thunderbolt port. You have one cable doing 96 watts of charging plus data plus additional USB-C add-ons, and you're using your webcam through there, you're using your speakers through there. There's a lot happening in just that one cable. So I'm impressed with that aspect of it. I'll say.
Yeah.
So
not only that, I'm impressed across the board how low priced everything was actually coming in. I was guessing the Mac Studio to be, starting at 3,000 for the Max, not even the Ultra, the Max. And then I was thinking it'd clock up to 9,000 would be the start, not starting, but that'd be your average pricing for what you get with the M1 Ultra. But no, like everything was completely. The thing that went up in price was the iPhone SE.
The cheapest device is what went up in price the most.
Yep.
Ironically.
And everything else came down. I'm like, okay.
I was not going into this event thinking peak performance was literally going to mean peak performance, because we got the fastest Mac ever made in all time at this keynote, which was kind of a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. So I was amazed to see, like, beating out 28-core Mac Pro, beating out best GPU in the Mac Pro. It was just an insane lead, and it did tie into those rumors about how they can daisy chain the M1 Maxes together, which is amazing. And it basically, I love that little nod they had at the end. They were like, and next is Mac Pro.
But that's for a different.
We'll save that for another day.
And it's like, hey.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god.
All I can say is when I saw the studio one, I was like, there's Nick's perfect cube in today's format.
It is.
They made a G cube.
It is kind of perfect, and I have to be real honest with you guys. I couldn't hear you for the past 5 minutes because my AirPods were wigging out. Those things are so inconveniently convenient, but
because it's now your turn.
It's now my turn. Okay, good. What did you get, by the way, Drew? Sorry, real quick, I missed it all. 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'll go second. I ordered the Studio Display non-nano textured, but with the height adjustable stand. So
you're telling me you like 60 hertz?
I'm purely for review purposes. I am not sold on it yet. I am not entirely convinced if this will be my monitor.
You will be.
But man, they were so perfect to a home run for me. That would have been a knock out of the park product if it was 120 hertz. I would have been absolutely sold, like 100%. Yes, that's what I'm using. The price was good. Center stage is amazing. The fact that it would include speakers is also
and a mic array
perfect.
that gives you the same spatial, everything that you would.
It even comes with the Thunderbolt cable you need to charge the MacBook.
That is good.
It would do data and power and everything, and I would get extra USB-C ports back, and I could put them behind the monitor. Everything about it was perfect except that one thing. I don't care as much about mini LED. I've done side-by-sides with mini LED and LCD, and I don't find the difference super big for me, but 120 hertz was a fairly crucial detail for me that it's lacking, and now that's kind of thrown off the whole purchase because I feel like I already have a 27-inch 5K LCD with my iMac Pro, which I use as a YouTube player, basically. So the question is, do I want to buy a whole new monitor that basically is the exact same panel as the iMac?
You do.
I also ordered the M1 Ultra non-bin Mac Studio. Again, not planning on keeping that, but it should be the fastest Mac ever made. I just wanted to make sure that I got the 64-core GPU because I want to do speed tests with it, and I want to see how fast the M1 Ultra is.
That's a brilliant idea.
For that reason,
I should do that.
Yeah, I did not order the 128 gigs of RAM. I just got the lowest RAM and the lowest storage, which was 1 terabyte. Nice that all the Ultras come with 1 terabyte. Nice. So it was a $5,000 Mac that I'm planning on just reviewing. I don't want to keep it because I need a laptop, but still very excited to try it out. And I'm kind of worried about how much I'll love it and how tempting it'll be, because I will edit all my stuff.
That you need it from like the Mac Mini. It's the perfect Mac Mini, non-Mac Mini.
Yep.
It's Nick's perfect cube, non-cube.
It is. Did you order an SC or an iPad?
So I've gone now. I didn't order anything else. I need to know what Nick ordered.
Me too.
I did order something. And it is an M1 Max chip. I got the Mac Studio with an M1 Max chip. I did not get the Ultra.
I love you again.
Because $4,000 for twice as many cores, when I'm pretty sure that a M1 chip is good enough for me to begin with, is overkill. So we're trying out the Max. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not positive I'm going to keep it. I probably could find a use case for it if I wanted to, but I don't want to, if that makes sense. So
he wants to take the chip out of it and put it into his actual cube. Look at it. Yep, that's what he wants.
Can you imagine that teardown video? Putting the Mac Studio inside the G4 Cube design.
Nick would get 100,000 subscribers from that video. You can't afford not to do it, Nick.
Yep. All right. Fine. I'll do it just for you, Randy. But yeah, so the M1 Max chip I think is going to be enough for me. My current workflow, the reason why I would want one is because me and my roommate do a lot of video work at Starbase here, and so we have a ton of footage that we cut through pretty frequently. Right. And we're both using M1 chips. He has an M1 Mac Mini. I have my Cube, and then also I have a MacBook Pro M1. We haven't really hit the barrier, even 4K, 120 frames a second, uncompressed, video footage plays back smoothly enough on any of these computers. And so it's more of a, just see how much better it is, just side by side. I know it's going to be better, so I'm quite excited about that. It'll take render time from 8 minutes down to, 2 minutes or real time or something like that, which will be kind of cool for those larger projects. So we'll mess around with that. It's 32 gigs of RAM. It's literally the base model. I didn't want to spend too much on it because if I do end up keeping it, I don't really know what spec I'd want. Because currently both the M1 Mac Minis that we have are base models and they work just fine. All of our storage needs and stuff are taken care of by NASs or external storage or SSDs and stuff that we plug in as peripherals. So we don't need a ton of, and I'm glad that it was 512 gigs instead of 256. They totally could have pulled a 256 on us there, and they didn't. So I appreciate that, Apple. Good job, again. Yeah.
They could have pulled an iPad Air, which has the M1 chip now, and still 64 gigs. Which
But that green
anybody
or blue,
who is looking, no. Anybody who wants an iPad, get the Mini. Save your money.
Yep.
Get the cheapest iPad you can get. Get the Mini. That's all iPad's good for. And you'll get center stage, and you'll get the same color, unless you want that blue that bad. But save your money. The iPad is not where it's at anymore. No.
Nope. iPad peaked in 2018.
I'm still saying refurbished 2018 Pro is the best iPad to ever exist.
Represent. Okay. Represent.
That one. I practice what you preach. That's exactly what I'm using. It might as well be refurbished at this point, but
me too.
Yep, 2018 iPad.
I wish mine was refurbished.
Well, the fact that you can get that same iPad now for $520 and you have the A12X chip, it still can't be beat to me. Okay, the Geekbench test is higher, but what the iPad can be used for will never be noticeable. It's such a small detail and such a little difference. And so I guess every iPad has center stage now, though. So
that's cool.
And
there's that.
Most Mac or accessories would have
all
it
Macs
now.
Can have center stage now.
There we go. Center stage should. Does that mean it's going to roll out to the new iPhone 14?
It's a $1,500 add-on for the Macs. So you're just buying center stage. You're not buying monitor.
I meant that stage. With the hardware, Nick. I meant going forward, the last hardware will be iPhone. Speaking of iPhone, now that I'm getting the exact same green again, I'm going to sell my 11 Pro. There's no use for it anymore.
The purpose of being green has now been fulfilled by a new so you can make money off this. Sell your 11 Pro, sell your 13
and sell my 12 mini. just because I kept it for like nostalgic reasons, and I still kind of used it. But no, this right here, like this was clear it all. Take every phone I've ever had and sell it. I do not want it. I do not need it. I'm looking at this is what I want. This is what I need it. Never in my life have I wanted so bad and never not known it until it was presented to me. All the camera array features that we still have, like the 13 Pro Max is the best battery, best camera, best screen display ever made. And now you're giving it to my color? And now the watch makes sense with the color too? Dude. All right.
Yep.
Say less. Hey, Drew, got a question for you. Actually, no, sorry, Nick, you too. It's an open floor question.
Okay.
Can we speculate for a moment what the Mac
No, we don't speculate
Pro
on this
M1,
podcast.
what the Mac... I'm going to move right past you. What the Mac Pro M1 chip name is going to be.
Ooh.
I was going to ask you the same thing. I'm still thinking. I was thinking God.
Ultra Plus.
M1 God.
Pro Max Ultra. It's going to take all three of them and somehow morph it. M1.
I misspoke in my recap video, but I was shocked to see that the 64 GPU cores results in close to the same graphics power of an RTX 3090 with 200 watts less power consumption. Not 100. That's what I thought it said. 200 watts.
Ooh.
Watts of watts there.
If you can imagine if they just decided we're going to take 100 watts for our chip, like how much higher performing they'll get with 4. Why stop at 4, right? Go to 6. M1 Max is stitch 6 together.
Remember, Drew, and I said, what if they just duct taped 2 M1 chips together? Do you remember me saying that and you saying, Nick, that's not how chip design works? Okay, they didn't use duct tape. They used a neural fusion fabric thing, but it was close enough.
Nick. Well, you know.
They used quantum physics
Yes.
to stitch them. But yeah, I love how the chart just goes from like M1, M1 Pro, M1 Max, and then when it gets to M1 Ultra, it's just 2 M1 Max. It's like,
Which
and
means
now we start stitching them.
The M1, the Pro M1 is going to have 4 of them. Which, okay, so my naming is actually, I'm going to say that's going to be the one that we first initially speculated. It's going to be M1X. That's going to be the Mac Pro.
Oh, X.
X.
Okay.
We'll come back
M1X.
to the X.
Kind of simple, kind of easy to remember.
We come back to it. It
That's
was
the only
speculated up until last year, like this is what it's going to be called, and everybody got it wrong, and then they pull the rug pull again, and it's M1X for the Mac Pro. Now I know they won't do that, but that'd be cool. Just to
That's an interesting concept.
like.
Or here's another one, Z. Because the iPad Pro got that.
Yeah.
It was like A12Z, which Z means like the best version before we give up on this series, right?
Yes.
So
I like that.
if Z was the last version of A12, then Mac Pro should be M1Z because it means like the last M1. It's the last because it's the last letter in the alphabet.
Yeah. I like
That's
that.
my pitch. That or God. I like God too.
I like
think that
God.
would be
Yeah,
kinda
we could do
funny.
God for sure.
Introducing M1 God.
This
You
one
can
will
buy
keep you on
this
life.
is
It'll
literally-
keep you alive for as long as you have it. Okay. It never runs out of battery. It never runs out of resource. It draws. No. In fact, not only does it not draw any energy, it gives energy. It's God.
Right. It doesn't consume power. It gives power back to the grid. You need an inverter when you use M1Z. It's just,
Yeah.
the CPU is so fast it produces energy.
And they're
incredible.
like, take that, Intel.
But-
Ours is negative watt power. It just is cooling itself. We don't need a fan. It's just, it opens a portal to
As
the
it does
netherworld.
more, it gets colder.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Wow.
The SE
Yeah,
is so
I'm-
sad. I'm looking at the SE right now. I'm like, it's so sad.
I was kind of surprised by the price increase, but I
Totally.
guess due to inflationary pressure, it makes sense.
So your video was not dated, Drew.
$399 ain't what it used to be.
You said why it was they're never going to sell like a $199 or a two. Like the reason why they're not going to sell a cheaper phone. Not only that, I mean, it went up. So you know,
It went way up.
yeah.
No, I because I talk so much, I got a lot right and a lot wrong at the same time. So,
But you're not.
all the Mac Studio stuff was fairly last second and last minute, so I was doubtful of it because it sounded too good to be true. I was like, really? They would make a M1 Max for cheap, and it would go in between, and I was kind of like, oh, this all sounds like a last-ditch troll effort, but no, Luke was right. They got a ton of stuff.
Luke was right, and you know what? Okay, good job, Luke. I was skeptical when I saw Ian's render. I was like, no. But I will say I was wrong. All right, good job on
Yeah, you were expecting a bunch of laptops, right?
I really was. I genuinely was. This was, but perfect because what my expectation was, there was a rug pull, and I'm happy because there was so much element of surprise. And yes, within the last 48 or 72 hours or 48 hours, whatever, seeing the green rumor, I was like, oh God, I hope that'd be cool. But I'm like, okay, it's gonna go to the regular 13, whatever. But the fact, so not only can they show that they will do it for a Pro, I am now more than ever adamant we will see a Product Red Pro. I am so confident of that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when.
See, I saw this as more of a revival.
That would be
It's
cool.
like they knew they could do this color in the past.
Yeah, but green was not the
So-
popular one. You guys aren't the only ones who have told me that it wasn't your favorite color. And I think I'm the outliner, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But put that to the side. The fact that they even show that they're willing to do something for a mid-cycle, I feel so confident at some point, hopefully as soon as next year. But I am confident we will see a Product Red Pro at some point. That's just something I feel in my gut now.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna get it because of my
Stubbornness.
it's stubbornness of wanting to make sure this is my last iPhone for many years. So I'm gonna look at it and admire it, and then not have it.
You're gonna sit there with a
kinda
single
like the
tear.
Mac Studio.
This is you. Like, you're gonna tell your wife, but it's beautiful, and then she'll be like, send it back. Yeah. I stand corrected, by the way, about iPhone SE. There is a new color, Starlight. Congratulations, Starlight.
In the loosest possible way, there is a new color.
Absolutely
Yeah.
terrible.
You gotta find a way to make it differentiate.
Terrible?
Yeah. Okay, they nuked silver. Silver was like my favorite color. Did you know you can't find a white Apple Watch band anymore? You cannot. They do not sell these anymore.
Oh,
They're all Starlight.
really?
I'm like, Apple,
Starlight band.
give me silver. I missed that.
Yeah.
I was so excited for, my wife has a silver iPhone SE, and every time she looked at it, she said, I wish this was slightly yellower. Now, thank God, there's an SE for her.
Wow.
I wish my white
Some
looked
people really
faded.
like Starlight. You know how a white plastic case will age
And
and how
bleach
it'll
in the
look
sun, all
like
weird
Exactly.
looking.
It's exactly what it looks like.
2
It's
years
terrible.
later? I wish it looked like that on day one.
No. No. No.
The aged denim jeans right from the
No.
get-go. I'm trendy.
Before you know it, we're gonna get Starlight AirPods, and all our
Listen.
AirPods will look like earwax colored.
Exactly.
Gentlemen.
Just
Ew.
like 70s aged plastic.
No,
Yes.
no.
You.
Gentlemen, here we are trashing on it, but I was on the record, and I don't want to go back on. I was on the record saying that Starlight iPad was my favorite color, and now I'm over here trashing it like, ew, caca, pee, white, yellow, gross.
You can like it. Good for you. That's fine.
It's terrible.
But I don't have to.
But I don't
It's
know.
terrible.
I'm
think it
checking out
shouldn't
the new.
exist.
Have you guys looked at the new colors of the watch bands?
No.
Mm-mm.
Did they
I've been
add
so
white?
busy. Maybe I should.
Because like 3 days ago they didn't
They got
have
Starlight.
white.
They have Starlight.
Dang it.
They got interesting colors.
Oh, no.
But they got.
How did you guys feel about the 27-inch iMac getting scrapped today? That was kind of surprising. I was not expecting that.
Just the standard
I
one?
was not expect. The 27.
Yeah, the 5K one.
Yeah.
All iMacs have white bezels now.
Drew, this is a nightmare for you. I'm so sorry. You need to like leave.
Yeah, this is
Mr.
this is
Y,
not
Mike,
great.
could not be happier.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike is through the roof
And
right
Nick.
now, but
And maybe Scott. Anybody, people we know.
I did think it was like an interesting direction because at this Mac Studio unveiling, they were basically saying how this is better than the iMac, and this is good for the studio, this is good for content creators, and I was so thankful for them to use that naming of like this is what the target demographic is for them. Basically, it's the simpler version of prosumer. It's like not Mac Pro level, but not entry level. We needed something in the middle. This is it. And they were like, because we know professionals and studio guys are going to need their own equipment and they want to use whatever they want, we're kind of leaning what used to be the iMac market now more into the tower. Now we're kind of pushing for more towers, which I thought was like, okay.
Because they can get us to maybe $3,500 instead of $2,000. Because we'll need the display too.
That's true.
Display's optional.
But you don't have to buy their display.
Yeah, display's optional.
That's the difference.
Yeah. I scoff at it.
It's kind of a risk.
Do you feel that this was the wrong move, Drew? With your being surprising on it?
No. I think that the more I think about it, the more sense it makes. It like the only iMac now is this Play-Doh colorful looking toy box that looks like it's made for children. And that's kind of how I think Apple sees the all-in-one market. They're like, the all-in-one desktop is for everyday people. It's like, it's for people who don't like dealing with adapters and cables and ports, and it's just like, I take it out and it starts working. And maybe there's an iMac Pro in the works. There's been references to it. Quo has said it's pushed until next year. So it's not even coming later this year. And sure, there might be some cool version of like, okay, $5,000, but it comes with a M1 Ultra, or it comes with an M1 Max, and it's mini LED, and it's high refresh rate, and it's big, and it's got thin bezels. Maybe that's in the works, but if you think about it, like a studio guy or a content creator would much rather have the flexibility of using whatever monitor they want. Use your cheap $200 Amazon monitor, as long as I can get the performance.
Or my $47,000 studio reference monitor.
Everyone has one of those laying around somewhere. But, you know what I mean? Everyone's got that 1080p Asus monitor in their basement that they're like, you know what? I just need the fastest Mac I can. I don't care if it requires additional hardware. I'm going to use my Amazon Basics keyboard that I bought for $20, and I'm just going to throw all the money I can into the processor because the studio market will probably care more about like the cost savings. They're like, yes, I want a Mac. I want something that'll last and get years of support, and I want something fast and good at video editing, and I don't need to spend additional money on displays or thin, compact designs that aren't useful. So I do think that studio entry point of branding it for this is for home offices, this is for people at home, and this is for them to have control over. It's kind of a weird term. They use the term modularity, which I thought was funny because it's not really modular. I mean, I'm sure someone will open it up, but I don't think you're not going to be able to add a bunch of stuff into it. But it's basically like you can plug in external hardware of whatever you want. And I see the use case for that, and I see the market for it. I just wasn't really expecting Apple to go in that direction. Normally, Apple would be the type to say, get a Mac Mini. It's like, what if I want more power than a Mac Mini? Oh, then get a Mac Pro. It's only 30 times the price, but it's much faster. So the concept of them going and leaning more towards that prosumer market, as much as I'm bummed about the 120 hertz thing, the studio display is a return to that like MacBook accessory market of like, let's let everyday people, maybe not everyday, but slightly middle class people be able to afford a monitor. Because I just thought the Pro display priced itself so far out of reach for so many people there was so few content creators or so few studios that could actually spend that kind of money.
We talked about how they overprice something almost to a fault just to set the standard. HomePod, XDR display, AirPods Max.
Max.
You know, you do them. Other people will then maybe it's a twofer where then like, oh well, Apple's I'm gonna charge this much, and then they'll like, all right, here's our cheaper one, and then they'll come out. Or no, that's too speculative, and I don't really care about that part. But I feel like they go all out first, just to push the tech there that this is what we have, and if this is not in your budget range, well, this is, or if money is not your concern and you're looking for what the product is able to perform for you, this is the best of what we got, and then they reel it in. And I suspect that this display, we've talked about it. We didn't really know what the name was up until recently. We knew that they were working on a small or a cheap. I hate saying the word cheaper. I hate
monitor.
saying that, but a more affordable cost, because they know that's going to be the actual selling one. iMac is going to sell more than Mac Pro. iPhone sells typically more than iPhone Pro or iPhone Pro Max. The Pro stuff is is for the people who are the fanatics like us. That's our target demographic. But we all understand that we're the exception to what most people want. So many every day. Nobody cares about USB-C and USB-A. They just need, can I plug my freaking phone in, please? Awesome. And the fact of the matter is, everybody still uses USB-A. For them to put that on the studio, I'm like, yeah, kind of makes sense. We know it's a data port, but we made the case that so was HDMI and the SD card reader, but yet nobody moved over, so we need those data ports. If they could, the dongle life didn't work, and nobody moved, and they just leaned in on the dongles. Now they took away the dongles, or the USB-C hub, more appropriately named. But I'm loving everything that Apple's showing what they're doing, not just with the Mac, but their overall hardware line. Because you think about where the industry is like, okay, they're not trying to be innovative. They're just, let's perfect what people, the everyday people, and even pro users, yes, but what most people need to work today. Let's perfect that.
Right.
So now we have 1080.
It's not tech for the sake of tech.
Yeah.
It's like Apple's all about tech as a means to get something else done.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's trying to be transparent.
it's a tool. It's a middle.
As transparent.
And if you want a new iPhone 13 Pro Alpine Green, then here you go, Randy. That one's for you. Like, sweet, thank you. Take my money. I don't need. But for everybody else, like the display, phenomenal price. I don't need the nano texture, and I don't need the swivel to be going up and down so I can adjust the height. And that means you could make that case like, oh, if the stand was $1,000. You're technically saying you could that this thing is $1,500 or what you could buy for $1,500, if ideally. But we know that's not how the pricing's gonna work. But the fact that it's under $2,500 maxed out, if you wanted to get all that stuff, I'm sold. I'm more than sold. I'm awesome. This whole I'm not buying anything this year went out the window the moment they showed me a green iPhone.
That lasted a whole 2.5, 3 months, Randy. Good job.
Hey, I came in strong, and to be fair, at least I don't feel that I'm still gonna get the 14. I'm just indifferent about it. The perfect iPhone now exists, and I loved all you guys tagging me on Twitter saying there's Randy's iPhone. Thank you. So many people tagged me when it happened. Yeah, that was fun.
It's gonna be a new meme. It's like every time Apple releases something in green, it's just Randy's notifications.
Right. Great.
It just gets super busy. But I'm actually kind of surprised because the height adjustment stand for the studio display is only $400 more. And it seems to have, from what I can tell, a fairly similar mechanism to the Pro stand.
Yes.
Which means
Are you saying that Apple
it's only $400
might not have sold too many of the $1,000 stands, and they made too many, and they needed to find a way to sell them, and so they discounted the price and changed the name and trying to sell them off as $400 regular display stands instead of Pro Display stands? Come on, guys.
I'd believe that if they were the same stand, but they're not. They're different hardware. It's like a different dock design, and it's hardwired in. It's not like a magnetic thing like the Pro stand was.
Yeah.
So they literally went through the work of re-engineering all of this.
Perfect.
But borrowed so much of the same equipment, and they were like, now it's only $400 extra, whereas before it was
$1,000.
$1,000.
So is $600 difference worth having magnetic connectors? No.
Magnets. Each magnet is $300.
They're very, very expensive
And
magnets.
together they're
They're actually
$600.
made out of unobtainium. It's a very rare metal.
Unobtainium?
Yeah, that's quite mind-boggling to think of how big a course correction the monitor business went. It does make me feel like that was intentional to make it as expensive as you could so that the next one would feel much cheaper.
It worked.
But I'm fairly convinced they're using the same panel from the 5K iMac.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just repackaging
Definitely.
the chassis. Which makes me less interested in it. Because I'm like, well, I have one that looks like that. I'm buying a
know
body.
that.
But does
We
it
gotta
have
wait for it
center
to tear
stage,
down.
Drew? Does it have center stage?
Does it have
Doesn't have center stage.
speakers and that mic array
Yes.
like that? No. Yeah, probably.
iMac Pro mic is pretty good though.
Yeah.
We'll admit.
But now imagine how you were doing your streams and stuff based off of the MacBook Pro, and I would just make an educated guess that that's the same stuff they put in now the display. I'm like, perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with those mics. I had people in my streams in the past tell me they preferred my MacBook speaker over this expensive mic array. They didn't like, no, I like the MacBook
Yep,
one more.
I've had that too.
That was so weird to
Well,
me.
I didn't blame them. I plugged in my old mic the other day and I listened to it and I was like, it's a lot of white noise. It's
Yeah.
a lot of hiss. And when I do everything off the MacBook microphones, no one seems to notice or care. No one comments on it.
What mic are
So-
you using when you do, for example, your EV videos? You'll have your ultra wide filming you. I'm assuming that's your iPhone. You're filming yourself in the ultra wide.
No, it's EV. Wait.
No. When you're
Most EV videos are on the Blackmagic.
no. When you're sitting at your desk and you're like say you're doing the order or something, and then you look at the camera.
Oh, yeah.
That's the phone.
That was ultra wide.
That was ultra wide. What mic were you using for that one?
I believe it was the MacBook mic.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I was recording my screen as well. So
Then
I just.
You are right
kept
about
that
the white
audio.
noise. Then I've noticed in the videos that you've used I asked because of also the, like the live streams that when I catch you doing a stream or something, I notice the lack of white noise that you have going on. I was like, that's all software doing that. Like Apple software is
Yeah.
making the audio better. It's so cool. It's just
Right.
I the audiophile
I've
me is
been
gushing
impressed by
about it. So.
I've been very impressed by both speaker and microphone quality on the MacBook, and the frequencies it hits for such for such a small device, for getting really really low pitches. I'm like, dang, and yeah, it's honestly a decent studio quality. I'm comfortable with that terminology. I think that's not a gimmicky marketing strategy. I would call it studio quality. At least if this is what Apple's definition of studio is like working out of the bedroom,
Yeah.
working out of the office.
And I think that's a really good market to go after in general, because typically Apple has really either gone for the portable, the high-end high-end laptop market, or like the super high-end like Mac Pro market where they go up to 50 grand. And a lot of creators, I think there's a ton of people out there, not just YouTube, but professionals, 3D renderers, compilers, people who code. Like, there are tons of people who want something that's slightly more than a Mac Mini, but not a full-on MacBook Pro. I was quiet here for the past second because I've been specking out a couple different things, and I think I have an interesting little piece of analysis here. The Mac Studio with the binned M1 chip, so the cheapest one, with a terabyte of storage, so it's the next tier up on the storage config.
The binned Ultra or the binned Max?
So the base level Studio is $21.99, right? Plus with the storage. So a terabyte is the common denominator here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's $21.99.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a 14-inch with that same chip with a terabyte MacBook Pro, it's $3,100. So you're going up about $900 just to get the smaller MacBook Pro. If you want the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is what I'd always get, that nice larger display, you're looking at $23.99. So $32.99, which is another $500 on top of the 14-inch. So just between the Studio and the 16-inch MacBook Pro, you're looking at over $1,100 of price difference for literally the same chip, the same amount of RAM, and the same amount of storage. All it is the body and the housing. And as someone who...
And you'll get more ports on the Studio.
You can get more ports on the Studio, and you're not thermally throttled. You're not going to be as thermally throttled. And I know people have done lots of great analysis on how the 16-inch MacBook Pro really isn't as thermally throttled on the lower spec chips. On the higher spec, the 24-core GPU one? There's a little bit of thermal throttling. But anyway, I think just like they knocked it out of the park with the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini is being the best price per dollar. I think that they did it again with the Mac Studio, knocking out of the price.
That's all we talked about for a solid year.
I know, and we're going to be talking about it again for another solid year. So the Mac Studio, here we come, baby. Best price per dollar. But I would caveat that and say the M1 Mac Mini is still a really solid computer. So unless you've used an M1 Mac Mini and have had a few instances where you need more horsepower than an M1 Mac Mini can give you, the M1 Mac Mini is still a perfect computer for 98% of people. It's even for me, someone who crunches through 120 frames a second, 4K video, ProRes HQ, uncompressed files, even raw files and image processing and all this stuff. I still use an M1 chip every day. Like, the M1 chip is an amazing processor. And the only reason why I'm curious about this Studio here is because I've heard a lot about the Max chip. I haven't tried one yet because I hate the MacBook Pros so much. And so I've been...
Right. You want something with even more holes.
I want even more holes than the MacBook Pros. Well, I don't know, if we count up
he
how many
wants
holes...
more ports, Drew.
I mean, he's got two USB-C on the front and an SD card slot.
And I will say this again, the desktop does make sense to have ports on it. Laptops, no way, Jose. But desktop, you can stick a few ports on. I guess I won't see them on the back there.
Who would need ports on a laptop?
Who needs those? Just get rid of them.
You know what you should do, Nick, is get the Studio display and put the Mac Mini on the back. Like, glue it so you can't see the Mac Mini. And there's my dream iMac. Almost.
Not 120 hertz, so we're close, Apple, next year. They just got to give you something to upgrade to next year. But yeah, for all...
It's true.
The Mac Studio, you're getting 4 Thunderbolt ports and 2 USB-C ports, which is more than you would get even on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which only has 3 Thunderbolt ports and no USB-C ports. So you're getting 3 more Type-C connection ports than you would on the MacBook Pro. Now, obviously...
Plus USB-A.
2 USB-A,
so your old accessories
exactly. Plus an Ethernet port.
Already got
it's not just a 1 gigabit Ethernet port. It's actually a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, which is amazing because I run stuff off of NASes all the time. And that was one thing. I'm like, if I'm going to get this, I need to make sure to upgrade to the 10 gigabit port. It's come standard. I'm like, way to go, Apple. Way to go. This is a good computer at that base level price point.
There's no stupid brick on the power cable.
Yeah, it looks like, though, it's just the power supply's inside the Mac Mini, so it won't have the same iMac connector. But as I spec up the Mac Studio, it kind of becomes less exciting. Now, obviously, if you want that M1 Ultra chip, that's the only way you can get it. So, but if you want to spec it up all the way, you're still looking at like an $8,000 computer, which at that point, you really got to have a need for all that horsepower. And I don't have that need, and I don't think I ever will. So it's,
I think very few people have that.
Exactly, but I'm glad it exists for those people.
Marquez.
Marquez, the one person. I don't even know if he needs that, to be honest. It's nice to have if you have an unlimited budget, but I guess, yeah.
He did mention his M1 Max laptop was outperforming his Mac Pro.
Yeah.
But I imagine now it's really outperforming his Mac Pro. There will not be any point to him continuing to use his Mac Pro
No.
now that this studio thing exists. It would be perfect for the studio channel, right? Hand in hand.
See,
But
see what you did there? See? See?
yeah, the 8000 is definitely the most I think any Apple Silicon device has ever costed. But if you consider that it's beating out a $55,000 Mac Pro,
Yeah.
it makes me ponder why is that cheese grater still there? What's the point in selling that?
To fill you have to fill the slot until the next thing comes. I don't think it's allowed to have a void. It's the same reason why I had the 2013 Mac Pro for so long. It was just to fill the void. You can't have a vacancy in that quadrant.
You don't think the iMac Pro is in a void right now?
The iMac Pro is... Are you talking about, like, are we talking iMac Pro based off of iMac Pro? Or are we saying iMac Pro like an actual iMac Pro?
Do you mean iMac Pro or iMac?
You know what I mean. Like, are we saying iMac Pro?
There's been rumors that you can tell me if you just don't believe them. That's fine. But there's a lot of talk that Apple is working on a more advanced iMac than the 24-inch that would have mini LED and 120 hertz and M1 Ultra, but it's not ready yet. Even though they discontinued the old iMac Pro from 2017, like
I don't believe
I would
that.
argue if that.
Yeah.
You just think there's only going to be one colorful iMac and that's it? They're not going to bring back a Pro class high-end iMac?
That's what the Mac Studio has now. We've never had a Mac Studio before, and the iMac Pro was a one and done. Mac Studio will be a one and done. This is the Mac Studio is
really
distinct.
One and done.
Yeah. If it sticks around, it won't stick around in this current iteration. The Mac Studio could become something like that. Microsoft Studio maybe at most, but they
Ooh, that'd be nice.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Well,
like I feel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think when they introduced the 2017 iMac Pro, it was because it was such a long gap between the original cheese grater and the it was the trash can and the new cheese grater. Apple history. I know that. I promise.
I call the Mac Studio the toaster.
Okay, Mac Studio. I like that. I accept this. So the toaster is the bridge between the original iMac Pro and whatever. Because at some point they need to clean up this lineup, right? Because I'm glad we're all getting switched over to Apple Silicon. However, when you go to the Mac tab on the website, you got MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, 24-inch iMac, Mac Mini, Mac Studio, Mac Pro, and so you got 6 things. And what's Steve Jobs' thing? You want 4 quadrants, and we gotta reduce this a little bit. And so I think they'll be combining the Mac Pro, either having the Mac Pro stand by itself or make the Mac Pro the displayed, like get rid of the Mac Pro and replace it with a 4-core Ultra Plus Max chipped iMac Pro. Go ahead, Randy.
Ultra.
The greatest thing about the display that's now for sale, the studio display, is it comes with the ever so coveted and desired polishing cloth for nano-textured glass.
Oh, it does?
Does it?
$20 value included.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, cost savings here.
I was going to say the Thunderbolt cable I think is worth
I was
like
gonna say, wait, and then the
$100 or
1
something.
meter Thunderbolt cable. You can't afford not to get this and keep it,
Yeah.
Drew.
Which if there is a checkout, you could say I already have that cable. You'd probably knock off $100.
No.
You could save a lot.
Bundle and
by
buy.
leaving that out.
Bundle and buy.
I think I agree with the lineup they've chosen to have for the most part. I think I might have changed the branding a little bit. One thing that just popped into my head.
Is it another year in Apple
confusing.
already, Drew? Changing the names? The one thing we all can always agree on?
No, the names, they make sense. But Nick brings up a good point about how complicated the lineup is. And I think the issue is the Mac Pro, back in the cheese grater days and even the trash can days, that was kind of sitting where the studio sits now.
Yep.
Like, the trash can started at 3,000 and fully maxed out, I think, was a little over 6. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like, whoa, that's so much money. And now...
It was before we were paying that much to fill up our gas tanks.
Randy hears gas tank and starts laughing.
Oh, what?
Evidently, you too, Drew.
Now the Mac Pro... Gosh. Mac Pro starts at 6,000 and can be spec'd up to 50. I think the problem is that 2019 cheese grater didn't really fit the same market of the original Mac Pros. That was always like, okay, $3,000 to $6,000, high-end Mac with, modular options and lots of ports, just going all out with the tower. And the Mac Studio we got today should have been the Mac Pro. That actually sits more in line, historically, in my view, with what the Mac Pro was. The 2019 cheese grater, that should have gotten a new name. I would have called that Mac Enterprise or something for high-end businesses, not everyday
Mac
people,
Marquez.
not studios or prosumers.
Yeah.
The Mac Marquez. The Mac KBHD is what
That's
the cheese grater.
That's the new name. It's the M1 KBHD.
The Mac.
I mean, as Apple Silicon marketing has already acknowledged that Pro doesn't mean much,
Yes.
because there's apparently several tiers above Pro, then if we're going to think Pro isn't that high end, I wouldn't consider Mac Pro to be the $6,000 to $50,000 price segment.
We need
I
the
think
Mac
that
Ultra, the Mac Ultra Plus Pro XDR.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of other Macs.
Call it the
we need.
Ultra. Mac God, come up with all kinds of weird suffixes
Mac Daddy.
that I just don't think that the cheese grater. It's basically the equivalent of like if the iPhone 14 came out and it started at $2,000 and could be spec'd up to $10,000, be like, I don't think we should call this the iPhone anymore. I think this should be some new tier or at least not call it iPhone Pro anymore. Call it iPhone Ultra or call it iPhone God tier or whatever. Like it's the Studio is like what the Pro should have been. I would have considered that Pro, and because it's a professional, so basically someone who uses a computer for their work, for their job. That's how I always interpreted Pro. MacBook Pro is like a step above the MacBook Air. It's not like 30 times the MacBook Air's price or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like another higher end option for it. So that's probably what I would have done if I was in charge, is just say Mac Enterprise and then Studio would have been the Mac Pro. But sounds like now I'm curious how they're going to price the new Mac Pro. And design-wise, especially seeing how much performance they are getting out of the M1 Ultra and how power consumption is still being prioritized, even though it seems to be a desktop chip. I don't think they want to put the Ultra in any laptops. I'm just predicting even taller version of the Studio. Just
Even taller.
The Studio is like 2 Mac Minis.
So
Mac Pro will be like 4 Mac Minis.
Knockoff Johnny Ive is going to be like, so the Mac Studio has actually been living a double life. Built into every Mac Studio is the ability to turn upside down and connect into another Mac Studio, thus doubling your speed.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. You know what? If you're making it that tall anyway, let's just go full force. Bring back the trash can.
Yes.
It's that same height. Use that same cooling design.
Bring it back.
And just fill the back with Thunderbolt 4 ports instead of Thunderbolt 2. And be like, ta-da, there's the Mac Pro. It's small again.
Can't innovate my butt.
But they'll have to change the color.
Yeah, right.
What color would they make the new trash can?
Silver.
Starlight.
No,
Or
God,
midnight.
no, please, no, no.
We can't have black anymore. It's got to be Starlight.
Yeah.
Or midnight.
Or forest green.
Oh, say less. A surefire way to get me to buy
Would you
something.
buy the Mac Pro, Randy, if it was forest green?
Even I have a limit. Even I have a limit about my fandom of colors.
Come on.
Okay, yes.
Okay, he says yes because you know it won't happen. I feel like I got AirPods
yeah, you
Maxed.
called me on it. You called me on it, yeah. Of course.
I got AirPods Maxed again with the studio display.
Ooh.
It's like they knew I would like so much about it, and then they found the one thing, and then they left out the one thing. It's like, oh. Am I going to have this all over again and be torn
Yes.
for another 2 years?
Yeah,
you will.
yeah. At one point, Drew, you're going to, you are going to realize something's not worth waiting for a promise. Not even a promise that Apple made. Because even the promises Apple make sometimes don't fall through. Air power. But
Ooh, shots fired.
I tell you right now, if it's coming from a leaker, no, I'm not holding my breath for none of that. Which is why, to me, you only live in the moment of today. I will, if I can find the right price for it, I will get a, AirPods Max. I will be getting the studio display, and I'm gonna have the best iPhone 13 Pro Max I could have ever had with that new color. And I will live in my little happy. I'll live in my happy little green world.
We need midnight green braided cables.
Oh, man.
And Randy will switch all of his cables.
Oh, it's gonna suck if I drop any of this in the forest.
Yeah, it's just gone instantly.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't find it. But
man, how many videos are we gonna see of people unboxing and trying to look impressed by the new iPhone SE?
Probably more than
it's
one,
sad.
unfortunately.
Yeah, that sad.
And you're gonna
Wow.
see inside them, they're gonna just be
Starlight.
crying just a little bit. Just the little bit of their soul will be dying every time they make one of those videos.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing iJustine get excited about Starlight.
To me, it'll be like people unboxing and reviewing the $300 iPads. It's always like, okay, all right, I guess. Looks okay.
But it has an
Alright.
M1
So-
chip now. Yay!
I'm not reviewing the Air 5 or the SE3
Drew,
because
the
they're
M1
just too
chip is
dang.
going to change everything about the iPad. It's not even going to be the same. Didn't you see in all the advertising there was like the little blue light trail lines that make it look like it's moving fast? Like,
I should buy a 2018 iPad Pro and unbox it and pretend it's the Air 5, and everyone will probably believe it.
wow.
It's like, hey, check it out! I got the Air 5. So
That's
this has
clickbait.
the M1 chip,
That's the all definition.
No, it's
of
not
clickbait.
clickbait if Apple did it first.
which apparently is acceptable.
Yeah. Question for y'all, and because you have the 256 gig iPhone, Drew. Do you have that version, Nick? The 256 iPhone gig?
I don't remember. Let me look.
Okay. Well then, for now,
That was so long ago.
That was a long
Question
time ago.
out
And
loud,
that's kind
and
of
you
weird
can
that I
go
don't remember
second.
that number. Yeah, I have 256.
you. All right. Is it worth upgrading to the 256 to get the ProRes video?
No, didn't use that once.
I don't
Didn't
think
use,
so.
okay,
Okay.
I used it once to play around with it, but I haven't seriously used it once.
Okay.
I tried it, and I tried to do comparisons. I was trying to do a video where I was like, here's what ProRes looks like, and here's what HEVC looks like, and I struggled really, really hard to make it a noticeable change in quality. The best thing ProRes has going for it is just a little bit more color data. You can color correct and pull out a bit more detail, but I did not notice the bit rate being obviously better, even when zooming in. They look, and I don't think it's that ProRes is necessarily bad on the iPhone. It's just that HEVC is underrated. Like the normal 4K at 60 mode is actually pretty dang good. It's fairly capable, even if it's not fully unlocked lossless bitrate or whatever. It captures most of the detail, and knowing how your workflow is, I unless you think you might use more than 128 gigs. That's the only
now
justification.
I have 70 out of 128 used currently, and when I'm like, what's causing the biggest load on it, I have 12.5 gigs on photos, which I sure I can break down a little bit more once I remove some videos. YouTube has 10 gigs, but that's because I've downloaded videos. So if I clear that out, I feel like I'll be good. But here's where it gets hard. Messages is at over 5.5 gigs, and I don't really clear out my iMessages. I like to have a record of all that stuff since the dawn of time. Then everything else is pretty standard, a gig or more with Twitter, Audible, Spotify, whatever. All that stuff is pretty standard, and so it just kind of adds up over time. So I'm doing good. I'm breaking.
Well, that's fine.
I'm breaking about the halfway mark, and I feel good about that. System, you can't do anything about the iOS or the system data that's on there, and I'm okay with that too. But I feel like I'm doing fine.
There's some crucial TV Plus data in there that can't be removed.
I know, how sad. So if I plan on holding on to the phone longer term, and this is where I'm at right now, I didn't start at 0 and went to 70, so I probably ported over maybe like 48, 50 gigs, and so I've added about an additional 20 gigs since then. That trajectory is kind of putting me up there, but I like to do like monthly or every bi-monthly cleaning out of my iPhone to free up storage. I do that on my Mac all the time. So the thought of expanding my storage has been there, but realistically, I'm like, no, I like to save money where I can, and the only benefit you get is the 4K ProRes, because I could get 1080 ProRes, and that's still fine. And so the ProRes is not like I don't have it. I just don't get 4K, but I don't really use 4K like that. But you guys who do use that stuff and you do care about the fidelity as much as possible, I was just wanting to pick your brain for someone who's had it for now 6 months. Has it been?
I regret it.
You regret it? Okay.
Yeah.
Fully will admit, shouldn't have got it. Could have saved $100.
Right.
I did fill it up, but go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't buy 256 gigs for the ProRes recording ability, but I haven't used it once, so don't get it for that reason.
Okay, I'm at 195 gigs, and that's partly because last year, or I think the year before, we switched to the lower iCloud tier, and I've just been storing everything locally. I gave up on the whole iCloud Photos concept, so I knew all these videos and pictures I'm taking, I want to be able to store locally. But even if I do fill up the phone, I'll just store a backup on my MacBook, because it has 8 terabytes, which is plenty. So I'll either do a backup like that, or I could have easily got a lower storage iPhone.
Don't you hate that once you move it to the Mac, it loses all that photo data, like geotagging and all that stuff? There's all this metadata that gets lost the moment it turns into a JPEG. That frustrates me. That that data is just lost.
Beggars can't be choosers. I guess when I go down memory lane, I'm usually not super precise. Occasionally I will look at old pictures and old videos and stuff because I just want to remember an old memory or something. But I pretty much just need the time, and I'll know where it was taken. I don't really need the metadata, and okay, it may not be a live photo or whatever, but usually those walk down memory lanes aren't like crucial. Like I need every pixel, I need every detail, which is why when Google Photos was good, I did not mind everything being backed up at 1080p, because I was like, I'm not gonna come back to this video in 20 years and be like, man, I wish it was 4K instead of 1080. It's like, no, I'm just looking at some old footage. It's the same reason you watch old family videos from early 2000s. You don't really notice or care much that they're on more compressed VHS, because it's just it's old anyway, so it's gonna have an older look to it. I'm less of like everything needs to be preserved to its finest detail. I'm kind of like, if there's a copy of it somewhere, I'll delete it locally. And,
I wholeheartedly disagree with almost everything you said.
No, both of you do. Nick preserves everything.
I love that the Photos widget gives me memories every day of something new where I'm like, hey babe, look at this. Here's a history of us, like baby us, and we'll be like, oh, it's so cute. It feels that much more sentimental as the times go on. I'm like, wow, this was almost 10 years ago now. That's crazy. Or we'll look at, I look at my brother being now a young adult, was around when iPhone first kicked off, and sometimes I'll be like, here's your brother over the years, and I see him as a child, like a child becoming preteen, teen, to now it ends with me at his boot camp graduation. I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. Kika, I get Kika photos for days, and I'm just like, I love the iPhoto thing that's happening in the iCloud, and I get it brings me joy, and for those reasons, I'm like, I will always have an iCloud account with that to at least fund those memories. And I like looking at, where was that? Oh, that was at Myrtle Beach. Oh, okay. Oh, look, that was up at Big Bear. So I like to just, my memories is then like I take the back end of it too. It's like, I remember where we were. Just yesterday I saw a memory of being at Big Bear exactly 2 years ago, and I was like, this was literally the last normal thing I did before the stay-at-home order was issued, and we've never been the same since. And I was like, what a awesome memory. We did that for my birthday, and I was like, this is so cool. So all that for me, not necessarily preserving the quality of the image itself, but having all that other data, and Apple knows what to do and analyze that information. Here's cross-country trips, and it gives me those things. I love this widget so much that I like, oh, man, I was disrespecting it for the longest time, and now all I do is every day I open up the iPad and I like to see the widget on my home screen. What memory am I going to get today? And it's a nice little 5 minute of my time of just going on like a vacation or something like that. So for those reasons, that's why I use that too. I want more of it, but I don't want to lose. The thing is, my older like pre 2013, I guess iOS 7 forward is all iCloud. iOS 6 back was like moved from computer to computer, and I've lost so much data on it that it doesn't really know how to present that information to me. So it doesn't. Anything 2013 and back doesn't really give me a memory because it doesn't know what to do with that. And I'm like, man, this sucks, because I have some cool stuff from like deployments or something. I was like, oh, this is cool, but I guess like you said, beggars can't be choosers. So I will take it. I'll take it.
Well, I do use that feature. I use the Photos widget, and I do play the memories back sometimes. But I just know, for me at least, it would not be sustainable to assume that I could keep doing that, because I get an email every day that says your iCloud is full, and even if I had the 2 terabyte plan, I would eventually fill that up and have to start sorting through things and figuring out what to delete. And then even if I got Apple One Premiere like Nick, eventually in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to fill it up, and I'm going to have to sort through everything. So it's like, whether I sort it out now and pay $3 a month, or sort it out in the future and pay $40 a month, I'm still going to have to sort it. So I'm in favor of like, I'm going to sort it sooner rather than later, so that I don't spend $40 a month on all these services or iCloud things stacking up. So that's why I'm but I still, like, 256 can hold a lot of pictures and videos. I still have pictures and videos from 2016 and 17 popping up in the widget, and I'm seeing old memories and stuff come back, which is nice. I'm talking more like long term, of like 10 years ago, 20 years ago kind of story, which I'm trying to plan for. But I think that's what the beauty of private social media accounts are for. You have a free hosting service where you can post as much content as you want.
Yeah.
And you can go back, and all the pictures I posted on Facebook, back when Facebook was a thing. I don't know if some of our newer listeners might not know, but there used to be this old platform where people would share pictures and videos and NFTs, and you could poke each other. And, it was an old...
I just loved being poked by
service,
my grandmother. It was just a very fun experience.
Yeah.
There's your title for the week. No, don't do that. But like, I'll scroll back on those photos, and I'll see things I posted long before I had an iPhone.
Yeah.
So I just think that's probably a good place for memory lane is this social media sites because they won't cost anything. Whereas iCloud, that'll cost me per month and it'll stack up. So I'm a bit more hesitant, but hey, why can't M1 Ultra go 16 terabytes?
You know why. They're saving that for the Pro or the Mac Pro, the whatever.
Later this year.
Thing. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
What would that price jump
Because
be,
it
though?
feels so obvious to me.
Golly. That'd literally be...
Yeah, how do you guys think the Mac Pro will be priced, starting to maxed
It'd
out?
literally be a $5,000 add-on. 16 terabytes of SSD.
That's what they want us to think.
I mean, 8 terabytes is 2,200, so...
I don't know anymore. They tricked me this time. Okay, hang on. No, the whole thing...
I have a prediction, but I want to hear yours.
The whole thing has kind of tricked. There's trickery afoot, and what I mean is, an M1 chip is now put in an iPad Air. Hang on.
An Air.
Where it's also
Emphasis on the Air.
the same M1 chip on an iPad Pro. Same schematics now. But the Air does not have ProMotion.
Okay.
Or Face ID or ultra wide or
Yeah. But
Thunderbolt.
okay,
Or
so we're
reason
talking
to
hardware.
exist.
But where I'm getting at is that you see something that's, oh, this makes sense, and then it's like it's not there, and it's something as justifiable as like it wasn't a strong enough chip, whatever that meant, to not give you a ProMotion display and not hurt the battery. But now you have the exact same specs when it comes to the motherboard, and they don't put, or logic board, I guess what they call it. They don't put ProMotion on today's iPad Air announcement. So, all that to say that everything that I think that would make sense, what I speculated the Mac Studio to be, what I thought iPad Air should be having, and all these and things in the past too, just iPad in general, I guess. I'm always proven wrong. I don't know how Apple. I can make a case both ways that Apple is going to undercut everything and make the cheapest Mac Pro ever because it's all done in-house, and that would make sense. I can also say it's like now they can charge the same or increase to inflation, but they didn't today, and say, well, this is because this is the best of the best that you would have never gotten on a Mac ever, and make an argument for that. And either way, when I make an argument for either or of it, I'm going to be wrong. Because even if I'm right, my reasoning's wrong. So... I will meet you in the middle and say the cheapest it's going to start $5,000. That's what I thought we were going to maybe get. I thought $3,500 was going to be the Mac Studio today, and I was way wrong. So my thing is somewhere between give me a $1,500 wiggle room. $3,500 to $5,000 is what I think the starting is, because at that point I can't really. If I'm going to be wrong, I want to be less wrong, leaning in one way or the other, because now I don't know why they do what they do with a lot of this stuff. So, there we go.
Be less wrong, Gandhi.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your price prediction, Nick?
For the Mac Pro, if it wasn't for the last line of the keynote, I probably would say we might not get a Mac Pro update. If it wasn't for him saying, yeah, well, that's something for another day. And it's like, because I'm quite satisfied with the Studio. Like, I can't imagine too many workflows that would need more than two M1 Max chips glued together. Like, I'm sure they exist.
They've beat every Intel Mac that's ever
It's already
existed
beat every Intel Mac ever. It's already beat all of the Ryzen GPUs, whatever the heck those things are. It's already beat all of that. Now, I really would love to have them say, now it's twice as powerful as it was before, which was already really fast. That's cool. However, on Apple Silicon, there are fundamental limitations, right? You are still on the ARM architecture. I know, right? Some x86 stuff
There's no
just
limitation.
isn't going to work as good. And we're getting so niche at this point as far as the people who need that kind of raw processing power probably have some really niche applications as well. And they showed some scientific people doing scientific astronomy things. I know for a fact that most of that stuff is running on code that was made back in the 90s. And it hasn't been updated since. So I just question whether or not that stuff...
It hasn't even switched to Intel.
It's still on PowerPC, dude. It's still way back then. And they would benefit from this power, but I wonder how many of them are using applications that would benefit from this. Like, no prosumer application right now would necessarily make your life substantially easier enough to justify the extra price bump of a Mac Pro, even if it was $5,000. Right? If you're in Final Cut or DaVinci or whatever, even if it's twice as fast, the number of unique places where waiting 30 seconds or 15 seconds for a render is life or death or worth the $5,000 price tag is a lot less. So I kind of wonder if there's even really a market for the Mac Pro. Now, they've tipped their hand and said there's going to be one, but I don't know who's going to buy it because people really didn't buy the old Mac Pro to begin with.
It's the Marquez market.
It's every
okay,
YouTuber who has every funding capability, like over 1 million.
But do they need it? I think the Ultra will be enough for them. Now they're gonna want it. They're gonna be like, ooh, now it's so many more. Ooh, now, ooh. They're gonna want it. They're
it's
gonna
the perks
make
of the
videos
job, man. I mean, that's the benefit.
I agree with that, but that's why I'm so content with the M1. Like, I do everything I need with the M1, and it's still fast. Like, it is impressively fast. Every time we cut through, like, huge footage that should be bogging down every other computer on Earth, and then I step back and realize this thing has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's chopping through a file that's 500 gigabytes of, pure 4K, 120 frames a second, ProRes HQ, 10-bit color depth. It's like gorgeous footage, and it's just chopping through it. And I'm like, I understand that people who have infinite money will get the best and the best of the best, and that's fine. But I just don't think that there's going to be that many people out there who are in that position. Now, in Apple terms, maybe that's they sell 10,000 units, right? But for me, I just wonder...
It's made of gold.
It's literally just made of gold. It's literally just a piece of gold that somehow still has more processing power than the M1 Ultra chip. But
it has chinchilla fur on the exterior.
No, that's how they cool it. It's cooled by chinchilla fur. That's actually what the Pro Display comes with. Instead of the little $20 wiping cloth, the Pro Display XDR comes with a chinchilla. Just a little live chinchilla that you have to clean your display with.
So,
but as far as price prediction, I'd say like...
What does that have to do?
No.
So,
I'm imagining, at first I imagined like the box showing up in the mail and there's like a little pet cage attached to it with cutouts. And then the following year, they go, to help save on shipping costs, we have removed the chinchilla from every box. You can use last year's chinchilla.
Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking back to the Elon meme with the dead deer in the pool, and there's going to be someone whose chinchilla is dead on arrival.
Something's wrong with my dolphin.
Something's wrong with my Mac screening club.
Why my chinchilla not work? LOL.
It never would have happened under Steve Jobs. It's just a dead chinchilla.
Oh my gosh.
There's your thumbnail. No, don't do that.
As far as my price prediction on an upcoming M1
all that to
version
say.
of a Mac Pro.
We ask about price. He's like, "There's no reason for that." Like, all right.
Yeah,
you're the Randy today.
We tangented it all the way over
You're
to chinchillas. I feel like that was a pretty decently sized tangent. Like that was a good tangent.
So are you saying because the market is so small, they can charge whatever they want? Essentially, it's like hypercar pricing.
Exactly. So I think the M1 Studio is legitimately the Mac Pro replacement. The Intel Mac Pro replacement is the Studio.
Right.
And then they're gonna do a $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 M1 quad ultra chip that has 8 M1 Max chips duct taped together, and it's just going to be this amazingly speedy little computer. And they're going to charge like insane amounts of money. I'd say at least $7,000 starting, but likely 10,000 would probably be like the spec that you want, because like the Ultra is so good in the studio, like literally the fastest chip ever made.
No Mac has ever been as good as
that cost
as
$4,000.
the studio.
It's like wow, wow, yeah, it's a good computer.
I'm so glad they left Intel now. Like, it's so refreshing.
It's never
to
been
see
more obvious.
the battery life gains.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything wrong with the Mac is entirely software related. Like, everyone's complaint falls back to, like, well, what about this game, or what about this one program that's on Windows? But people keep thinking, how does Apple improve the graphics to make it good at gaming? It's like, they have literally made a GPU that consumes 200 watts less power and provides equal performance to a 3090.
Not good enough.
You cannot make the graphics isn't good enough argument anymore. That just, I mean, it never worked before, but it especially doesn't work now, especially because the Mac Pro is around the corner. That's probably going to have one of the more fastest GPUs on Earth. And it's all ARM. It's all just cores. It's not discrete GPUs anymore. And the power consumption will still be unbeatable. So, yeah, it's like, as far as hardware can go, Apple has literally done everything they can. I mean, maybe people are upset that they're less serviceable, less repairable, but I think even the new MacBook Pros took a step in the right direction. They brought back the pull tabs, and the ARM architecture and doing everything with a system on chip is just kind of inherently less fixable, less upgradable, because it's like, well, if we want power consumption this low and performance this good, you can't make a chip that people can work on themselves or tear apart, because then it wouldn't be efficient and it wouldn't be fast. So I just see that as kind of the reality of, this is where computers are going. It kind of sucks that maybe people who like working on them can't get as much work on them, but I think it's clearly become obvious that in order to have better performance and better battery life, you need to make it kind of less repairable, less workable, and that sucks. But how many people are going to prioritize repairability in favor of having worse performance and worse battery life? I don't think you can die on that hill if you want, but I don't think it's going to last. I think at the end of the day, people are going to be like, which one's faster? What has better battery? I'll take that one. It's like, yeah, but it won't be easy to work on. I don't care. It's like, I don't want to work on it.
Yeah.
I just want it to work. So that's where I see computing going, and Apple's clearly at the spearhead of that transition in terms of performance gains. And the gaming thing is more of a contract argument than it is anything. It's never been a technical limitation. It's all just what studio can buy what gaming titles, and Activision buys this company and Microsoft buys this company, and it's just this tethering chain of licensing. You can put popular games on the Switch, and that has probably a worse GPU than the iPhone, but it's still popular because they got the titles, they got the contract. So it's not really something I see Apple tackling unless they see any monetizable outcome, and I don't think it would be very profitable for them. They could easily blow billions of dollars on buying up game companies and saying, all of you, write your games for Metal and bring all these games to the Mac and make them play at 120 FPS. They could do all that, but the number of people that would actually pay money for those games, I think, would be relatively small. It would not pay off the billions it took to get those companies. So I think they know that. Once again, it kind of proves my point today. We have the most powerful GPU Apple's ever made in a Mac.
Yep.
Did they once during this event talk about gaming performance?
Nope.
Did they even slightly relative? You'll get better FPS in Fortnite.
They won't touch
does not
Fortnite
come up at
with
all.
a 10-foot pole. They're not ever going to say that name.
There was still some portion of the website that showcased Fortnite FPS at one point, and I was like, why are they still advertising that? But yeah, it's been a fascinating transition. I'm kind of sad. Like, it's almost over. I feel like going into the Mac Pro launch is like going into the season finale or series finale of this awesome show we've been watching for the past few years. It's like, now what?
Okay, so
now what do we get?
We're gonna end this show on like a really somber note here. So I think we can all agree, iPhone had its biggest year-over-year jump in 2017, and it's kind of been flatlined since.
I agree.
You know, iPhone 10,
yeah,
big deal, flatlined since. We can also agree, Apple Watch and iPad made that exact same jump and peak in 2018, and have not really significantly grown since. I think what we've seen is Apple is making that jump right now with the Mac between 2020 and 2021 and now 2022. This is a larger transition because it's a larger lineup, but they're making that same jump right now, and they didn't talk about the M2 chip. I don't know about those leakers who were saying about the M1 M2 MacBook Pro. This is my prediction. Ready? Just fresh off my brain right now, so look out. My prediction is in Dub this year we will get the Mac Pro, the M1 Mac Pro, and it will be labeled the M1 something, extra qualifier that makes it sound too close to Samsung, Pro Max Ultra Plus, whatever they want to call it. And
Bingus.
The biggest God chip.
M1 Bingus.
And then in November they will release the M2 generation, and that'll kick off a whole line of MacBook Air refreshes
with a new Air
new MacBook Pro refresh, new Mac Mini refresh, and that'll be the TikTok cycle we'll go through. Every 2 years we'll get a new M generation, and then the following year we'll get the performance ones, and that'll be settling into our new TikTok cycle. And as much as I love dancing on the internet, I don't be dancing for the fact that this is likely the biggest jump that we'll see in a while. This whole transition has been so fun to watch, just from our perspective, just watching this, right? Going from stinky hot Intel computers that struggled to get a full day's battery life to an M1 chip that you could get for under $1,000, $999, that had fanless design, great power, awesome battery life. And here we are sitting with the M1 Ultra chip, which has taken that to a new level 2 or 3 times over. And it's just a whole new way to think about chips, where you're literally just duct taping 2 performance chips together. And I don't think we'll see that kind of excitement after this year. I think the last big hurrah will be the new Mac Pro.
Yeah.
It will be a crazy expensive, crazy performance computer that will likely have 4 Max chips duct taped together, maybe 6, maybe 8. Who cares? 16. They'll duct tape them all together.
It's the Roadster of Mac.
It will be the Roadster of Mac.
That's what it is.
But after that, it will be very, very flatlined. It'll just be, M2 chip.
Well, then I'm going to end this show on a high note. That's when we'll focus on Project Titan and get an Apple car and everything else we've been speculating for.
I'm all for that.
Apple glasses, a foldable, you name it, we got it, baby. After this transition.
That. Let's do the Apple glasses next.
I definitely think Apple will need, at least for speaking as a tech YouTuber, Apple will need something to hold people's interest after this, because I do think it is peaking very quickly at the Mac Pro. This is the big reveal, the big enchilada, and it's gonna, similar to people saying, look at the Roadster, it does 0 to 60 in 1 second. Why do you need to go that fast? It's like, it's not about being practical. It's not like,
because I can.
What would be the point? What that's what Mac Pro is. I think my answer has changed. Like, before Nick answered, I was gonna say I think they're gonna start it at the exact same 6,000, and because they don't have to pay for overpriced Intel and AMD, it'll max out around 12 or 15,000. But I thought Nick brought up a really good point, which is that this is so unnecessary. The existence of the product is so overkill, and we already, with today's Mac that people will start unboxing in a couple weeks, the Mac I'm going to unbox in a couple weeks, has beat out every Mac before it, even $55,000 Macs. It's outperforming it in CPU, GPU, power consumption, everything, and it's much smaller. And the number of people that will actually require something higher end is just leaning more into an ever increasingly tiny niche, because Nick is fair to say, like, I edit and export videos constantly, and I'm still comfortable with regular M1.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm still like, M1 Max, is it worth it or not? Because I saw that reaction to the chat of people are like, oh, Drew needs the M1
Ultra.
Mac, or he needs the M1 Ultra now. You don't have the fastest Apple Silicon anymore. And I was like, this is a dangerous game that Apple has very intelligently laid out
Yeah.
to say M1 in 2020, M1 Pro and M1 Max in 2021, kick off 2022 with M1 Ultra, so everyone's like, wow, this is even faster.
And then there's
Get
something
everyone
else.
to buy this Mac Studio, and they've got still something else around the corner. So every silicon upgrade was faster than the last one. So I issue a big fair share of warning. I know the Mac Studio is the shiny new Mac that just came out, and the M1 Ultra sounds unbeatable right now. But just like me, you will face a faster silicon's existence in the coming months, later this year, and you're going to have to come to terms with what do I actually need?
Yeah.
What is worth spending thousands
Which
of
is why I
dollars
got
on
the
that will
M1
result
Pro,
in a-
baby. I'm the most lukewarm chip holder, and I have never been happier.
mayonnaise sandwich.
Extra mayo bologna sandwich. Yeah. I'm boring. I'm extra medium.
Wet white rice.
Beautiful. You're right, though, Drew. I give it to you.
So-
You're right that this is a dangerous game that people are playing, and it was very strategic. That this was everything is going exactly as I have foreseen it.
I'm afraid Mac Pro will be quite operational by the time your Mac Studio arrives.
It was I who allowed the M1 Ultra to be released in March.
It was I who released the modular Mac Pro in 2019, trapping you into $50,000 desktops that will become obsolete in 2 years.
I can, and then you could hear him. He's like, "I can feel your hate," because everyone's buying.
Do a Tim Cook deepfake. Where
Yeah.
he's just, I feel your anger.
Strike me down with your money to buy new products, and your transition. And your transition will be complete.
Complete.
Something dark side. Something complete.
Complete.
Go
Oh
for
my
Papa
God.
Palpatine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Guys,
I
What a
love the event
show.
today. Yeah, good show.
Thank you, Apple.
Good event. I love today's event. I'm gonna do something I don't do often. I'm actually gonna rewatch the event just to see if I missed anything. Not that we didn't cover. Just I find that like I always looking back after something happens like this, you can go go back to November or not. Yeah, November when they did M1. Watch what they were doing just for that segment of the Mac, and you'll be like, I actually get it. That week chart that didn't have any numbers. Like, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we want to be. And you're like, what the heck does that even mean? And now you're like,
two monocolored rainbow arcs. What are you doing, Apple?
yeah. So I think I'm gonna go back and actually watch the event to see. I want to better understand this mission statement that they're doing with the Mac line, because I stand by what I said last year. I was the most excited about the Mac. Still excited about the Mac. But I'm also excited about the
Their
iPhone.
mission statement is to accelerate the transition to Apple Silicon.
That's it.
And they sure have been going at plaid speeds.
I want to see every from M1, M1 Pro, M1 Max, and now M1 Ultra, and be like, well, it makes sense that what's after Ultra, M1 Note,
Mega Ultra Plus
M1
XDR.
Note. M1 Galaxy.
M1 Galaxy.
M1 Galaxy S22. That's the name.
Wow. Perfect.
Yeah, Nick might. I might be wrong, but I think Nick is right. I think he was onto something there. They want to do Mac Pro in June, and then M2 in the fall. I think that
Nick,
sounds right.
every now and then he has a kernel of like, oh my god, his genius is shining. Every now and then.
You know why he's right? It's because he doesn't follow the leaks.
This is so true.
So he knows what's going to happen because
Yeah.
he doesn't listen to anybody.
Yep.
He's just like, this is what makes sense. And then it happens.
Yep.
This is so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good advice. But closing thoughts, Jens?
That was it.
To be honest, I was underwhelmed by the event, but I didn't actually watch it all. I kind of got interrupted by work halfway through, so I didn't actually watch the M1 Studio Ultra unveiling. It was the SC and the iPad that I saw, and I came back and they were like finishing up the display. I was like, dang it, I think I missed something important here.
I was going to say, they basically did exactly what you wanted, though. They made a Mac that's not a laptop with them.
As Drew would be like, there's
say I have
Randy's
anything
iPhone. I saw the Mac, like, there's Nick's Mac.
It's almost a
I was
cube,
like,
too. It's so close, Apple. So close.
Yeah.
If the Mac Pro,
after I
I will
saw-
say this: if the Mac Pro is a perfect cube, I don't care how much it is, I'll buy it. If it's a perfect
I believe
cube, I
you.
will buy it.
I believe you. I believe you. I know you will. That's where you throw logic out the window, and I respect you for it.
Shapes.
They started with iPhone and they showed the 2 new colors, and I was like, I don't even care what happens for the rest of the event. I'm good. I almost got off the stream, everything, and then it just
I see this as an absolute win.
yeah.
I like the pacing.
Yeah.
Good pacing.
Put the iPad to the side for my own personal hatred I have. It was just it was building up to more and more, and the crescendo of it all when we got the display revealed, and I'm like, just tell me the price, and they kept dragging it out. And I'm like, I caught Drew's stream for a second. I was like, we're like, I wonder if Drew is streaming right now. And I looked, and all him was like, just tell me already. Is all I saw him do. And I was like, same buddy, same.
It was me the whole time. I was just like, how much? How much?
Then I was thinking like, oh my god, they're dragging out because it's gonna be $5,000, $1,599. Done.
Yep.
Done. Forget it. All right.
2 spring events in a row were really solid.
Yeah.
Apple
I'd
has
say
stepped it up on the spring
spring
keynotes.
was good.
Maybe these pre-recorded videos should stay. Maybe we shouldn't
what are you
have the
guys
live
thinking
reaction
about that?
anymore.
Like, people
I
seem
miss
to
Craig.
kinda
I miss the
People have
stage.
asked.
But
yes.
People have asked me before. They were like, when do you think Apple will come back? Is it a new product category that they need to come back for? And I was like, AirTags, no. Mac Studio now, no. So I think they just like the control and they like the aesthetic. And I don't know what data or how you even measure media performance of events online versus in person. But I would be willing to bet that the online events have done better. I think they're cheaper. They probably are much more affordable than renting out a big venue or having to hire specialized security and bring all these people in. And, even if the pandemic wasn't here, even if it was all gone, I still think that, frankly, these are just more entertaining.
Steve
I know
Jobs
they're not
Theater can
live,
still be used
really.
internally for training events and stuff. So it's not like it's not being put to use.
I mean, they used it today. It was in the event. It just wasn't filled with people. Yeah, you're right. It could be used by employees and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
So it's not like it's a waste of money.
concerts or whatever.
Yeah. It's the more this happens, I'm like, I like the conciseness of it. I think we can all agree we love the bloopers and we love the audience. Like, oh yeah, all that is fun. But when we come down to it, when we look back, just even a year or 2 years, start with the M1 transition. What you remember is the substance of it, not necessarily the bloopers or the meme-worthy things. Oh, let's switch tobacco. Like all that's fun. But we can't.
Apple doesn't want those.
But they don't want them.
those.
And they will protect their IP and everything that they get to control to the very end. And I accept that now.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Marquez said the same thing. I was like, do you miss going? Because I've never been to Apple events in person, but I know he has. So I was like, do you miss going in person? He was like, oh, absolutely not. I hope it stays this way forever.
It's
so
easier.
I was like, well, there's someone
recap.
who's going.
Yeah.
Someone's going, and they're like, oh, yeah, this is so much easier. It's so nice, and and he watches it once for the information and then again for the cinematography, and it's just so much more fun to pick apart than people walking up on a stage and walking back and forth, and having mistakes and that kind of stuff. It wasn't bad before. I'm not saying it was crappy production value, but this is definitely like far higher production value for far less money, I'm guessing. So, how about you, Nick? Do you miss it?
I do miss it a little bit. I kind of missed the audience reaction to stuff. Not necessarily the gasp and awe when they announced it was $5,000 plus $1,000 stand. That was funny, but obviously not what they wanted. But just the cutaway shots with an audience applauding, it just makes it feel a lot more grandiose and more like important almost in a way. And but I also wouldn't want to give up the beautiful cinematography that we've become accustomed to over the past 2 years. And so I'd really want them to kind of merge the two in a way where you have, really highly well-produced kind of cutaway stuff. And, maybe the audience sits and watches most of it on the screen and it's just Tim out there, opening and closing the event basically in person. I don't know. I feel like they might be able to kind of merge the two a little bit if they wanted to. But at the end of the day, I'm quite used to it. And I just had that thought as I was watching it. I was like, I wonder if they're ever going to bring them back the in-person ones. Not as like they need to, but I think they could now if they wanted to. But I don't know if they would,
I agree. A hybrid would be awesome to have.
I'm trying to think when the last in-person event was. Was it iPhone
Back before
11?
the end of the world.
Before the world
It
ended?
was old world stuff.
There was a September 2019 event.
I think that was it.
Was there an October or November
No, I don't
one?
think so. Was there?
Yeah, I think they skipped. They didn't have an October event that year or anything. They did site refreshes.
Oh, yeah.
They were doing a bunch of site refreshes. So yeah, no one probably knew going into that iPhone
12?
11 presentation that would be it.
No.
I think it was 11, right?
Was it 11? It was 11. Wow.
Yeah, there's 12 is 2020, 13 is 21,
wow. Dude, the pandemic
iPhone 11, that midnight green was the last.
That shaved off years of my life, dude. Wow. iPhone 11.
That's some old world logic.
Dude. Wow.
That was a good year too.
That was a good year.
That was the only iPhones that came with fast chargers forever.
Rip.
And always will be the only ones. iPhone 11 got a price reduction,
Yeah.
which no one saw coming. And Apple Watch Series 5,
5. Yeah.
which had an always on display, which was kind of cool. So, yeah, it was a decent keynote to end on. I just wish I would have known watching it that was going to be it. I bet the people
you
in
look
person
back
did
at
too.
certain things and you're like, wow. Like I look back at old world Randy and I'm like, I was raw dogging all these door handles and touching things and not washing my hand, and I feel so gross. Now I'm just I'm a germ freak now. Ugh. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think everyone is. It's fair. Well, those were good closing thoughts. Thank you all for
Any more
tuning in.
closing thoughts?
We'll see you all back here
Thank you all
Friday
for
or
watching.
Saturday, whenever, yeah.
We'll see you all in a couple days as our thoughts unfold.
Special
Unfold
event time.
Thanks
When I'm
all.
on a Samsung event.
Hey,
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.